It's been a crazy couple of days in the Path of Exile 2 world. We had the live reveal, which gave us insight into exactly what was going to be happening with Dawn of the Hunt. We already knew the Huntress class was coming. What we didn't know is whether or not we were going to get more than just one. Well, it's now official. We are only getting the Huntress class. Sorry, Druid lovers. And the Huntress is going to have the Amazon and the Ritualist as its ascendancies. And it looks like a really, really quick and agile class to play. We also learned there's 3 more ascendancies coming to other classes. The Warrior is getting the Smith of Kitava. The Mercenary is getting the Tactician. And the Witch is getting the Lich ascendancy, which looked unbelievable. We're getting new skills, race scepters. We're getting 100 plus new support gems. There's also 100 plus new unique items that are coming that are going to help us in the mid to late game. We are getting new encounters called the Asmirian Wisps, which looked really cool in the live reveal. There's new areas to the end game. There's 7 new endgame maps. In one of the maps they showed, you can resummon and fight a tougher boss every time you resummon a new boss. And you can do that up to 10 times. Looked incredible. There's a new encounter. This is one of my favorites. The Rogue Exiles. There's 12 of them. They're all unique. They're going to come into your map and they're going to engage and fight you. Kind of a form of PvP. They also talked about the changes they made to strong boxes, and there's new unique strong boxes. There's a new endgame mechanic called Cleanse the Corruption, and basically the corruption has continued to spread throughout raid class and formed into larger zones. In the center of each lies Corrupted Nexus, the home of 3 new terrifying bosses, amalgamations of corruption itself. Upon defeating these bosses, any remaining areas within the zone of corruption will be cleansed. Cleansed maps have additional new monsters, a new boss, and their own set of modifiers and rewards. And in the center of each one lies a corrupted nexus, as it states here. So looked really cool. There's improvements to the end game system. There's going to be a 1/3 less towers, so not as many towers in the end game maps. And the maps and the towers are going to now have their own thing and are going to have bosses. The towers can spawn with all mechanics and have their own new boss. The towers can also now have 3 tablets put into them, which affect a ton more maps than before. There's also corrupted essences, and there's greater opportunities for us to get greater essences, obviously using Val orbs to corrupt them. And of course, that launches on April 4th. Now, I have to say, the reaction to this, now that it's been a couple of days, I have to say is probably mixed at best. And I'm going to get into my thoughts at the end, so please stay with me till the end when I give you my synopsis of everything we got to cover here, because we got some more interesting details that came after the live reveal. And that is that there was a Eurogamer article, which I'm going to link this in the description of the video so you can read it, as long as the other videos that I'm talking about will all be in the description of the video. But I want to highlight a couple of things out of this Eurogame interview with Jonathan Rogers. We always had this perception, and sorry, not a perception, it's what we were told. Leading up to early access, Grinding Your Games is always stated, informed us that there is this content in early access, and it will include everything. It will include the 12 acts, the 12 classes. It will include all the acts. It will include all the content. That is what we were told in the past. Well, dare I say, the goalpost is moving, ladies and gentlemen. And this article and another interview that I'm going to talk about in a couple of minutes just illustrates how things are constantly changing in the Path of Exile 2 landscape. And I say that because in this article, we learned that there is a 65% chance that early access can still happen in 2025. Jonathan was asked the question, and the interviewer pushed him on it, and it's right here. I pressed him on the comments after to see how realistic a full launch this year really is. Now, remember, Jonathan always stated leading up to early access, ideally, they wanted to get out of early access in 2025. They wanted a 6 to 12 month early access, okay? So that's what was told and said to us in the past. And Jonathan said, I think it is quite possible, but not like 90%. I'm thinking a 65% chance of getting it done this year. That's my current feeling about it. I have a schedule that will get us there. It's a question of can we actually meet the schedule, which will be challenging, but not impossible. Now, he also goes on to say, should the game not make it out this year, though, we won't have much longer to wait. Yes, absolutely, Roger said. If it wasn't December, it would be March kind of thing. This sheds some light on the fact that 65%, it's not 90%. So there's a good chance that we can still get out of early access. He has a roadmap for it, just doesn't know whether it can happen. So the other thing I want to highlight out of this article is, remember what I said earlier about early access? We were going to experience the full breadth of the content of the game. Well, looks like that might not happen, because Jonathan stated in this article that if we didn't have one or two of the classes during early access, that wouldn't be the end of the world. So what we were told in the past has now shifted, and Jonathan has stated in this article that they're willing to move on from early access, even though they don't have all the classes in the game. This is something that we were not told before. There's also this interview with Destin, which I highly recommend you guys go watch. He did a great job. He asked a lot of great questions. And actually, at the end, there's a lot of Q&A from Destin's audience that Jonathan just hums off and answers them. And there's some good information out of there. But what I want to take out of this interview are just a couple of items, again, to kind of just shape how things are changing right now in the Path of Exile 2 Grinding Gear Games landscape, as far as I'm concerned. He spoke about Chris in this interview. He was asked about Chris. And Jonathan basically said, look, I talk to the guy every day. But really nothing has changed. Chris has been a board member for many, many years. He hasn't been involved in the day-to-day operations of Grinding Gear Games for a very long time. So, you know, nothing has changed as far as the company impact or is involved. And as far as the day-to-day operation of making Path of Exile and Path of Exile 2, he hasn't been doing that for a while. So it hasn't changed the company at all, but he talks to him every day. I found that very informative, the fact that they still, obviously, they created this game, these games. And of course, that bond that you get as partners is unbelievable. So it's nice to hear that. We also learned in this interview that Grinding Gear Games has already paid. He was asked, how much did it cost to make Path of Exile 2? And Jonathan, in an ever revealing self, not holding back, we learned in this interview that they actually are already profitable in Path of Exile 2. With the early access drop, they made enough money to pay for the development of the game and then some, which is remarkable. So kudos to Grinding Gear Games. They're already profitable with Path of Exile 2. A couple of other things that I wanted to take, and it's more on the business side out of this interview, is the fact that Jonathan, he was asked, how did you become so profitable so quick when Western studios are like failing so miserably with being profitable? Not all, but some. And they got into salaries and all that, and that's not it. Jonathan just uh, went on about how he likes to keep a lean and mean operation. He doesn't like redundancies. He doesn't like bureaucracy. Say that 3 times. And we also learned that Grinding Gear Games is up to about 210 employees. So they obviously have grown. The other thing that I found a little revealing was the fact that Jonathan talked about the fact that they have cut off overtime at the studio. No more overtime. He said it was getting out of hand because everybody's so gung-ho, and God bless the developers at Grinding Gear Games. They all want to finish and get stuff done because they're so excited about it. But they had to put a stop to it because it was getting out of hand, and their big concern was they didn't want people to burn out. So I found that very interesting because when you take all of this stuff that I talked about before, the live reveal, which has kind of gotten, there's people on both sides of the fence here. The Eurogamer interview where we learned that the things we were told were going to be in early access has changed in some circumstances. And in this interview where we learned that they're already profitable, they've made their money, paid for the development, they stopped overtime, I think it's a little bit revealing to why we are where we are. Now, some of you might be saying, what the hell are you talking about, Sammy? Well, look, let's take this in 3 pieces. Let's talk about the live reveal. The live reveal has had mixed reviews. There's a lot of people that are like, oh my God, there's so much content. And there is. I'm super excited for 0.2. There is a lot of new stuff. You can't deny that. There is so much stuff there, which is good. I guess where people are leaving or have left with a bad taste in their mouth is what they chose to work on. I think that's the crux. That is where some people are having a problem chewing on this update, is the fact of, why did you focus on that side of the content? And I give you the following reasons of some of the disappointment. The crafting, people are still wondering why they're so adamant on sticking to this theory of crafting. Now, Jonathan has said a million times over, he does not want the loot that drops to be irrelevant. Quality over quantity. We've heard that a million times, and he continued to pound that narrative during the live stream. So the crafting, people wanted more on that topic. People wanted more on another class. A lot of people were talking about the Druid class. That didn't come. People wanted more content as far as the campaign. Some people were on the side that they wanted another act or 2 acts or 3 acts, whatever. So this is why I feel there is the mixed reviews that are out there. And actually, some people are very disappointed, and they're like, see you later. Between the live reveal and what some feel Grinding Gear Games purposely planted this drop right after last Epoch's first date of April 2nd. It's now April 17th. That combination has made people say, forget it, I'm done with these guys, and there's other bad things that they're saying. Now, that's a small part of the population. Maybe it's much bigger than what I see in my live streams and in my comments on my videos. But so there's a side of that as well. Grinding Gear Games is basically doing what they want to do. They have a vision for the game, and they're sticking to it. And what I found very revealing, and kind of what highlights the point that I just made, is the fact that During the live reveal, during the Q&A with Ziggy D, they got on the topic of armor. That is another sore point with the player base, is armor is so broken, and people have been kicking and screaming about the armor topic, and the fact that Grinding Gear Games during the live stream basically, and I'm paraphrasing here, guys, basically admitted they haven't looked at it. They need to look at it, but they haven't looked at it. They need to put themselves in a room. Again, paraphrasing, guys. They need to put themselves in a room and talk about the armor problem. So when you hear that, you know, my first reaction during the live reveal was, oh my God, they haven't even tried to tackle this. So out of the live reveal, the issue, I think the issue is the fact that people are like, you're fixing things that are not the core. I think some people have issue with that. I'm not hearing, oh, there's not enough content. There's a lot of content in 0.2. It's but what they selected as the content that I think a lot of people are having a problem with that. So that's that. As far as the fact of early access coming out of 2025, not coming out of 2025, at the end of the day, who cares? Whether it's 5 months before, 6 months after, who cares? This game is live. We can play it. It's going to constantly get better and better as far as I'm concerned. And I want to highlight the fact that there's not one fabric in my body that feels that this game is not going to be the top ARPG. Now, the only question I have is how long it's going to take to get there. But this game will be it for a very long time. Whether we get out of early access in 2025, in December or March, who cares? To me, it doesn't matter. Some people, it's a big thing. A lot of people are talking, this is going to be 3 years, 4 years. It's not happening, guys. Like, worst case scenario looks like 2026. Now, I have to say, Grinding Gear Games is clearly doing what they want, when they want, and how they want. And this is the crux of the problem, because some people are taking it really badly. Now, I have to say, personally, I don't have a problem with it, because I'd rather have a studio that knows what kind of game they want to make, still take feedback, which Grinding Gear Games does, but they have a vision. And it's like the 80-20 rule, probably. You know, the studio, 80%, has their vision, and 20% gets modified and helped through the player base, okay? I would think that's a good mix. So I don't have a problem with that. I think what has changed, because I always feel Grinding Gear Games has always had this methodology. We know the kind of game we want to make. Yes, we're going to take your feedback, but we know the kind of game we're going to make, right? Where they have changed is in how they're communicating, when they're communicating, and how effective it has become lately. I really think they have done a poor job in how and when to communicate what they need to communicate. And this is what's causing a angst in the community, is their communication strategy. It's not gotten better. It's gotten worse as far as I'm concerned. And this is what the main problem is, because I feel if they would have communicated things in the past and what they're doing now in a much more targeted approach and effective approach, we wouldn't have the problems, as many problems as we have. And I have to say, Grinding Gear Games, their reputation armor has taken a couple of hits. I've said this already a couple of times in other videos. So to me, their judgment on when and how to communicate has dropped a little bit, and I think they need to hone up on that, because it's coming off as a little bit too, dare I say, arrogant, and it's rubbing people the wrong way, and that is a very slippery slope when it comes to that. Now, I personally don't think they're coming off arrogant. I just think it's as simple as their communication strategy has fallen off a little bit, and it's impacting and causing ripples in the community. I don't think these guys are arrogant. I think these guys know what they're doing, and they know what kind of game they want to make. So anyway, lots of stuff, guys. Lots of stuff. There's a lot of things I didn't talk about, but lots of stuff. It's been a hell of a couple of days. Let me know what you think. What did you think of the live reveal? What do you think of 0.2 content update on April 4th? What side of the fence are you on? Are you happy with all the content? Are you happy with what they selected to work on? Were you disappointed? Why were you disappointed? What would you have liked to have seen? Do you like... We don't have a roadmap. That's the one thing that I also learned in these last couple of days. There is no roadmap. Like, they have an idea of what they want to do, but things are changing all the time. The goalpost is shifting. And I really think, and I've said this, if you've been on my live streams the last 3-4 weeks, I've said this a lot. Grinding Gear Games just got caught with their pants down, and they're behind the 8 ball, and they're playing catch up. They're just trying to catch up. And I think that this is what's causing them not to be able to dedicate enough time and resources on all these big issues. They can only tackle so much. And what is the most glaring evidence that supports that? They can't even manage their support queues. They can't manage. I have one of my moderators who's been waiting 2 months to get his account activated. 2 months. 2 months. We are a week away from a major content update, and he doesn't know whether or not he's going to be able to play it because he's locked out of his account because Grinding Gear Games is backlogged on their their support queue, sorry. Right there, that tells you how behind they are. So anyway, let me know what you think, guys. Look, at the end of the day, this is the worst you're going to see of Path of Exile 2. This thing is, in my humble opinion, this is just going to continue to get better and better. And all this stuff, this content that we're getting on April 4th, just think about this and let this sink in as we roll the credits in a couple of minutes. There's more to come. Anyway, thank you for watching, everybody. We'll hope to see you next time. Take care. The opinions expressed in this video are mine and solely mine. Healthy debate is always encouraged. Hate is never welcomed. So get over it.